We all think we know the story of the printing press. It's this huge leap forward for humanity, right? But today, we're going to look at it from a different angle, as this profound, almost sad story about what we gain, and maybe more importantly, what we lose when technology changes our world, sometimes without us even noticing.
Everything really starts with this one idea, this one sentence. Before the press, a book knew who it belonged to. Now, what in the world does that mean? It sounds kind of poetic, doesn't it? But it actually points to a very real relationship with the written word that, for the most part, has been completely lost to time.
So, to really get what that quote is all about, we have to travel back in time, back to a world where books weren't just products you'd pick up at a store, they were intensely personal objects that were born, not manufactured.
And this right here gets to the heart of it. It was a relationship, not just a transaction. As the patron, you didn't just buy a book, you commissioned it. You'd go to the scribe and say, okay, I want this text written in this specific style, and hey, could you add my family crest on the first page? Oh, and maybe leave a little more space between the lines. My eyes aren't what they used to be. It was a true partnership.
And the scribe's work, wow, it was so physical. This was a craft that was literally rooted in the human body. Just think about it. You're preparing animal skin, soaking it, scraping it, to turn it into parchment. You're mixing ink from scratch, from ground-up minerals and plants. And then the slow, deliberate act of writing. Every single letter had to pass from a mind, down an arm, through a hand, and onto the page.
And this was the result. No two books were ever the same. Maybe the scribe's hand trembled a little on a cold morning, or maybe their decorative flourishes got a bit bolder when they were writing a passage that really moved them. These weren't seen as mistakes or flaws. They were marks of its creation. They were proof that this thing was alive with the soul of its maker.
And then it happened. In the middle of the 15th century, a machine showed up. A machine that would completely change our relationship with knowledge and with the book itself.
The speed of this change was just mind-blowing. I mean, in the span of a single human lifetime, Europe went from having maybe a few tens of thousands of handwritten books, each one costing as much as a house, to literally millions of printed books.
Just let that number sink in for a second. 20 million. It was an explosion of information on a scale that nobody could have possibly imagined. Words that were once locked away in monasteries were suddenly walking out into the world for everyone.
And let's be totally clear here, the gain for civilization was enormous. All of a sudden, a scientist in England and a scientist in Italy could be looking at the exact same text, the exact same data. You could spot errors across thousands of copies. New ideas like Martin Luther's spread like wildfire, way faster than any king could stop them. The Reformation, the scientific revolution, the Enlightenment, honestly, you could argue none of that happens without this machine. So it all sounds amazing, right? A clear and total win for humanity. But this story is about the trade-off. And while the progress was very real, so was the loss. Let's look at the other side of that coin. And here we are, right back where we started. The printed book, it just showed up. It was identical to thousands of other copies. It was made for anyone, which, in a strange way, also meant it was made for no one in particular.
You can really see the whole shift laid out here. A book's identity went from being totally unique to being totally identical. The process of creation went from a personal relationship to a simple commercial transaction. And the reader? Well, the reader went from being a known patron to just another anonymous customer. The very soul of the object changed.
It's kind of funny, but for almost 100 years, the wealthy elite actually looked down on printed books. There was this stigma of print. To them, a printed book was, well, common. It was public, a little vulgar even. And they weren't just being snobs about it. They were actually mourning the loss of that personal, one-on-one connection they had with their texts. So here's the absolute heart of the matter. The scribe knew the reader. They knew their name, their family, what they liked. The book itself was proof of that knowledge. But the printing press, it created this huge anonymous market. The press made the reader totally unreadable to the person who made the book. Okay, so this is where the story gets even bigger, because this isn't really just about books. What it reveals is a much deeper, recurring pattern in our history with technology, a pattern of loss, compensation, and then a second, even deeper loss. So it starts like this. First, we lose some core human interaction.
Think way back to Socrates, who was genuinely worried that writing would destroy our ability to remember things and have a real conversation. The living, breathing voice got replaced by the silent, fixed page. That was the first loss.
But, we're creative beings, so we build something beautiful inside of that loss to make it okay. We couldn't get the Socratic dialogue back, so we made the written page itself a sacred thing. We invented the scribe's craft, the illuminated manuscript. We turned the written word into this incredible art form. That was our compensation.
And here's the twist. This is the gut punch. The next piece of technology that comes along, it doesn't just replace another original human sense. It comes along and destroys the very compensation we built to feel better about the last loss. The printing press didn't just replace handwriting, it completely wiped out the entire sacred world of the scribe that we had so carefully built.
So when you lay the whole cycle out like this, you can really see the pattern. We go from the living voice to writing. To compensate for that loss, we create the scribe's beautiful craft. And then the press comes along and takes that very compensation away from us. We lose something, we build something beautiful to make up for it, and then we lose that too.
And that brings us all the way back to the beginning. The progress was undeniable, of course. Millions can read now. Democracy, science, all of modern life rests on the printed word. But in that great trade, something was lost forever. The book that once knew your name became the book that doesn't even know you exist.
And look, this isn't just a history lesson. It forces us to ask a very, very modern question, especially as new technologies are changing our world faster than we can keep up. It asks us to look around our own lives and wonder, what beautiful things have we built, and what have we traded away without even noticing?